The Arnold story. So there's this very nice lady at my office in Los Gatos, and every morning when I pull in next to her, she always says good morning, and I say good morning as well. A couple of weeks ago, she looked at me after I said good morning, and she says, I'm going to give you a nickname. I said, really? I said, what's that? And she says, Arnold. And I said, well, I figured it was Arnold Palmer. And she goes, no, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I said, why? And she says, because you're in such terrific shape. Thank you for laughing at home. And then she says to me, are you going to give me a nickname? And I said, yes. Right now, I'm leaning toward Helen Keller. The Mel Torme story. I don't know, it's probably in the late 70s when I was running KPEN radio. And Torme was going to be up at the Venetian Room at the Fairmont. So I talked to his agent, and they said, yeah, we could set up an interview for you. Just give him a call at his room when you get to the Fairmont for the show that evening. I said, terrific. So I get there, and I take the house phone, and I called him, and I said, Mr. Torme, this is Mike Jacobi from KPEN. And he said, my effing wife. I said, beg your pardon? He says, she is going to take me for everything I've got. She is such another expletive deleted. And I said, you know, now might not be the best time. He said, oh, I'm sorry. I'll talk to you after the show. So we go to the show. It's a great show. And toward the end of it, he starts doing a little scat tribute to Ella Fitzgerald. And in the middle of it, he stops and he goes, what am I doing? Let's bring her up. And Ella was in the front row. He brought her up. They did about 20 minutes, brought the house down. I went backstage, had a nice chat, and met he and Ella. Quite an evening. Couple of airport stories. One, I guess it was last year. The lovely and talented Mrs. Jacobi and I were in New York, and we go to this marvelous little Vietnamese place called Saigon Shack. And they have terrific banh mi's, the great sandwiches. And so we get one because we're on our way to the airport, and we'll figure, we'll take it on the plane with us. So we're sitting at the airport, and it's very crowded, needless to say, at JFK, and there's just a din. And Mary looks at me and she says, do you want the banh mi? And I said, I can't hear you. And she says, do you want the banh mi? And I said, darling, I can't hear you. And she yells, banh mi. I said, we're at the airport, honey. I don't think you ought to yell that. The other story is we just got back from New Orleans. And one of my pet peeves, whenever I'm going through TSA, I say to the guy, if I'm over 75, can I leave my shoes on? I've been doing this for like 8 years. And he always goes, sure. And I'm saying to myself, doesn't anybody patronize anymore? The guy could say, oh, you're not over 75, but nope, sure. So I go through, I leave my shoes on, and Mary's coming up the other side, and he looks at me and he says, is your wife over 75? And I said, I don't know. Why don't you ask her? So I leave, and all of a sudden she walks up and she says, do you know what that guy said to me? Go figure. January 27th. Today is Holocaust Remembrance Day. It's not enough just to never forget. We must also always remember. Remember what happened, how it happened, and how it could have happened. Memories and black and white photos fade, but evil never dies. April 11th. It is with profound sadness that I learned of the passing of our dear friend Shirley Kelly. She and her family have been part of our lives for over 40 years. She watched my children grow and myself heal. A jazz fan, an activist, and Renaissance woman. Someone who has always been there for us and for me. I've reached an age when saying goodbye has become far too common an act, but this farewell is particularly tough. Sleep well, my love. Catch you on the other side. May 6th. The lovely and talented Mrs. Jacobi and myself modeling our new, very hip shades. It was either that or burning the money. Sadly, I was out of matches. June 11th. From the producers of Succession, The Sopranos, comes Trump for the Defense, streaming this fall. Get ready to binge. June 14th, another birthday. Two words that, depending on your age and perspective, inspire overwhelming joy or abject horror. Turning 71 today, I'm neither joyous nor horrified. Rather, I'm at peace in the knowledge that a new chapter in my life has begun. Now, it's hardly the second chapter, but with any luck, it's not the epilogue either. I am grateful and blessed to continue to have the opportunity to present music to the people I love and folks that mean the world to me. The beat goes on. July 30th. When Frank Sinatra calls you the best in the business, you're probably pretty good. Tony Bennett was pretty good. Pretty good for a very long time. He burst on the scene the year before yours truly burst from the womb with his recording of Because of You, the title track of his debut album released on Columbia in 1952. Since his passing, there have been so many lovely tributes to Bennett. I highly suggest that you Google Nancy Wilson's and Bill Charlap's remembrance. Today, I'd like to share a very special memory. It involves a remarkable evening at the 48th Annual Monterey Jazz Festival. Surprisingly, it was one of Bennett's two appearances at the iconic venue. He was in his mid-70s, sounded spectacular, and the audience he had in the palm of his hand. I was there with my son on an evening on which the full moon was covered by clouds. Then it happened. Tony looked up and dedicated the next song to the full moon, although he pointed out we'll probably not be able to see it. As he ended the rarely heard verse and sang Fly Me to the Moon, the clouds parted and it appeared in all its lunar glory. An audible gasp filled the arena, and my son said, "How did he do that? How did he give us 70 years of memories? How did he go from rags to riches to Amy Winehouse and Lady Gaga and Billy Joel? How indeed." Do you believe in magic? I sure do. November 18th. It is again with profound sadness that I have to recognize another passing. Today, my friend Carol Coates. What a lovely man and a remarkable composer. You'll See, Sunday in New York, London by Night. No One Ever Tells You, to name a few. We had had some marvelous chats, ranging from a war-torn Great Britain to Sinatra. It was always a joy to spend time with him. Mortality is a funny thing. While it's always there, you don't think about it until it's too late to say goodbye. Sleep well, my friend. December 7th. Now is the time for the light of peace to burn bright, a time for our commitment to remain resolute and our hearts to remain open. Hag Sameach. December 8th. Happy birthday to Kennedy Jacobi. When your best friend loves baseball, jazz, and golf as much as you do, life is pretty good. Love you, tough guy. December 8th, my fifth visit to the National World War II Museum. To be there on Pearl Harbor Day, along with the first day of Hanukkah, was almost more than one could bear. The new Liberation Pavilion is a remarkable experience, which includes oral histories of Holocaust survivors, along with those who liberated the camps. The monument men are there, in a fascinating display of the work they did to save so much of the world's art. It speaks of victory and of its costs. I took this photo of four silver-haired men quietly watching a film on the horrors of the Pacific Theater. Their eyes filled with tears, no doubt remembering their fathers or uncles and stories of their youth. I can't help but wonder if someone was behind me snapping a shot of five sobbing silver-haired men. The Iron Sheik story. I love this story, and it's absolutely true. Again, it was probably in the late 70s. If you're a wrestling fan, you'll remember the Iron Sheik. Really interesting guy, because he was an Iranian Olympic champion and was wrestling just as an Iranian with a regular name, whatever it was, and doing all right. But then the hostage thing came up, so he came out as the Iron Sheik because he was this great bad guy. And he would always announce that please don't chant the letters USA because it drives him crazy. So there's a match at the San Jose Civic, and I'm there. I'm really close. I'm in the lower rows near the front. And I'm 3 sheets to the wind. In those days, that happened a lot. And the Iron Sheik comes out, and he says, please, don't chant USA. It drives me crazy. So, USA, USA. And I jump over the railing, run up to him, right up to him, point at him. I said, I'm going to kick your ass. And he looked at me and he said, what are you doing? I said, going back to my seat. Thank you, sir. Finally, a few words on mortality, a subject that's likely to be a reoccurring theme in the years to come. And I'm not pleased about that, but that's life. And as Frank says, you're riding high in April and shot down in May. True story. The other day in a business meeting, I forgot the names of a couple of the folks I should have remembered. It was more than a bit embarrassing. Yet, as one ages, it's bound to happen. So if you end up being one of those folks, please forgive me. And keep in mind that who I am isn't based on what I forget. My value, rather, is based on what I remember. There's going to be a lot of talk about age in 2024. Oh, we're getting to politics now? Oh, finally. Look, am I concerned about Biden's age? Of course I am. Hell, as I've said, I'm concerned about my own. But I'll tell you what I'm not concerned about, and that's what is in his heart. Next year at some point, most of us will ask the question, whom should I believe? There is a surprisingly simple answer: the truth. Not sure what the truth is? Go find it. This is far too much on the line to be complacent. As AI continues to touch all of our lives, lives will be all the more believable. Read the story, not just the headline. Do a little research. Think of it as looking for the moral equivalent of Waldo. You'll feel good when you find it. And speaking of feeling good, next November, why not plan a little exercise? Something easy. Oh, I don't know. How about you get out of your chair and do the right thing? Just saying. Finally, as always, thanks to my dear friend Kyle Chesser of Hands On Studio. For the past 20 years, he's made me look good, and that's 10 years more than I could muster. Thank you, brother. So as always, take some time to hug your partner, kiss your pets, squeeze your wait a minute, this is all wrong. Well, whatever it is. And also have yourself a wonderful Hanukkah, a bitchin' Kwanzaa, a terrific Ramadan, and as always, have yourself a merry little Christmas.